is an Arse Brothers production. Follow us on Twitter at the Arse Brothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud at Arse Bros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Hey, welcome to this, an Arse Brothers Rantcast. I think I'm the only person in the room with the lights on because currently both Ryan and Darren look like Manny Riz. Those of you who remember Manny's an original Arse brother. He's Congolese and he's black as fuck. And start the show with a normal degenerative comment of some description. Ryan, how's your week, buddy? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm fucking so tired. 6 o'clock in the morning. I got no sleep, and I just put my contacts in my eyes. It looks like I'm crying, and well, fuck it. I am crying. I woke up to the news that El Nenny's gonna miss a considerable amount of time. He apparently got hurt during Fulham, and it's a pretty serious injury.
I did not read that. I hadn't seen that today.
Ornstein literally tweeted this 10 minutes ago. So I'm a little bit shaken as El Nenny is the best player on this team. Well, he's my best player. So a little trying to reel from that, and Partey's still hurt. So, but yeah,
what was the news on TP? Was there a defined return date? So it's quad. I know it's quad again, isn't it? Which we know is dodgy.
It's his right thigh. But here's the funny part. I heard rumors that it might not be an injury, but I don't know, and I won't get into that because I'm not going to speculate anything.
Yeah, you're fucked.
But I didn't see him at the game against Fulham, so I don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, they say it's a right thigh injury. But yeah, we now need him back more than ever. And
I wonder if that means you'll see some Zinchenko action into midfield. Because we know that Lokonga in preseason was playing more advanced. He wasn't sitting in the deep role. And I don't know that I'm ever going to be comfortable seeing Xhaka behind the halfway line again after this start to the season. That's not fucking amazing. We're pretty depleted in genuine number 6 roles, I think. It's sort of TP and El Nenny are only 2 genuine number 6s. Lokonga's never made me feel confident with him in a deep lying role, nor is Xhaka.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we do, especially, the transfer window coming to a close in a couple of days. Are we going to make a panic signing? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's really panic when we really don't have anybody. I know Sambia said in interviews he sees himself as a 6, so maybe he'll force us to play there. Or we could, maybe see... Which I agree. I don't want to see him there either, but maybe we'll see Xhaka there. Maybe Sammy plays the left 8. It's going to be very interesting to see what we do because, we have. I'm not worried about Villa, but
I'm not sure. There's a comment here from Mr. Arsenal podcast saying we might up our efforts for Tielemans. I'm not sure Tielemans is that 6 either, so I don't know how that solves us particularly. That's just another 8. It's just another 8 thrown into the mix. You still end up having a. That's rocked me, Ryan, because I was quite comfortable with El Nenny there. Like I was fine. I was like, I don't care.
El Nenny.
Yeah, I thought he was really solid. Did everything he needed to do. Not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, also you could put Ben White there. Even I mean, Ben White's known to play a little defensive midfielder too. I don't know. There's so many things we could do. I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I'm cold. I'm alone. I'm ashamed lying naked on the floor. I don't know. That's a song, I think. Some girl.
Natalie Imbruglia, Australian girl. I always wanted to fuck Natalie Imbruglia.
She's hot.
Always wanted to fuck her. Good morning, Darren. As we can't see you, we can only we can't see you, so we can only assume that you're there in some description.
You can tell this good-looking profile anywhere, can't you? Fuck. Look, I'll just be thankful I'm on it.
Yep. How you doing, Dazza?
Yeah, really good. Sorry I was late. I plugged my mic in upside down and it took me ages. I restarted the computer and everything, then realised I was just annoyed.
Same thing happened to Ryan the first time he fucked a man. It took him a while to work it out, and then he got it together and he was like, these parts, these bits, they're not meant to be here. He unplugged it. He walked away and he came back and he said, I know what's wrong now. That was Ryan's first trip to
It's
first
funny.
trip to
So
Thailand.
I'm gonna do a deep dive here. No one's probably seen the show. It's called Todd and the Book of Pure Evil. It's a Canadian show. It's like heavy metal and gore, but it's comedy. It's funny. And one of the main characters in the show, his name's Atticus, and you find out that he lost his virginity to a werewolf, and they keep doing flashbacks of him just like, full moon, thunder in the background, and he's just like scared, whimpering, and like humping a tree, and then there's a werewolf in the background howling.
Wait. Did the werewolf fuck him, or did he fuck the werewolf?
I don't know if it's actually mentioned. I'm pretty sure the werewolf fucked him.
Because I reckon you'd get fucked, like you would get fucked by a werewolf.
I don't know. I don't know
before we lose all of our 5 listeners, for fuck's sake, I'm bored out of my tits listening to you two talk nonsense.
Darren, El Nenny's out of the team. Thomas Party's out of the team. Our options are getting slim. Obviously, we've got Sambi Lokonga there. We've got Zinchenko, who can move into a midfield position, but my understanding was they were all 8s. What are you doing this weekend to, in an effort to replace the irreplaceable El Nenny?
Well, I think the problem you got is that you mentioned Zinchenko, which is the obvious replacement, and he's injured. He was wearing a fucking knee brace on the last game.
Oh, I thought it was a one game. I thought it was a precautionary.
Well, he had a brace on his knee, so it didn't look good. When he was celebrating, he ran along the touchline with his knee in a brace. Didn't look very good.
I reckon that's right from Nana. I reckon it's Lokonga's the next man up. You never know. Maybe you'll fucking come in and.
What about your Ainsley Maitland-Niles? He could come in and play.
AMN is fucking dead. AMN's dead.
Now, I think we have got options. I think Ryan mentioned it. Ben White he played at defensive midfield. Callum Chambers could come in. He's not Callum Chambers. Rob Holding could come in.
We're actually playing Callum Chambers.
I mean, yeah. Holding.
I wonder if you might see Arteta go after an entire change to formation, and we see him go into essentially like a 3 at the back, which means he doesn't necessarily need to carry that defensive midfielder because he gains an extra body in there.
We're home to Aston Villa, who along with Bournemouth are just looking poor at the moment. Yeah, it shouldn't be a game that we should worry too much about this. Sambi is a good player. We can go in and we can do this. It shouldn't be an issue. Was that yes. My facial expression says it all. For those who are listening to the podcast, I'm in silhouette. You can't see me face. I might be able to sort that out in a minute, but I can't be asked. Yeah, I mean, look, we shouldn't be worried about this, should we? I mean, it's just a bit of sod's law that we're losing all the players in the same positions. Zinchenko, Partey, El Nenny. I haven't heard the El Nenny news either, so it's news to me. But I'm sure we're not going to be able to go into the transfer market and get someone up and running and playing in 2-3 days. So we'll just have to live with it. But it is Aston Villa, and we should be able to deal with it. Come on. I'm listening to you two talk about vampires and shagging men and all sorts of shit. Can't we just have a little bit of celebration that we're top of the league and we could be enjoying ourselves?
Werewolves, but okay, that's fine. No, I'm excited. I'm not excited, but I personally would love to see Ben White there. I think he is, based on how we play, based on the system Arteta runs, I think Ben White would be a really good choice. Problem is, Arteta's not a guy to just throw a player in a new position, especially when he has this machine working and firing on all cylinders.
I think Arteta's he's a next man up guy, and I think that surely he would know that if he didn't select Lokonga in there, that would be one of the biggest fuck yous to Sambi Lokonga in history.
Yeah. He did that to Tavares last year by playing Xhaka at left back. He doesn't care about people's feelings.
But Tavares had been fucking hooked twice within 30 minutes leading into that. So I don't think Sambi has ever done anything so bad.
No, he looks a good player.
I don't even remember Sambi ever having a stinker. Tell me.
Sambi's got minutes under his belt as well. Didn't Sambi come on last week and at the weekend and play for a few minutes?
I think it's probably a reductive conversation. The next guy up there who has played 6 is Sambi Lokonga, and I would expect Sambi Lokonga to come in, and I wouldn't expect us really to start making massive wholesale changes considering what we're doing at the moment within the formation, or even Zinchenko out, Tierney in. Tierney essentially played very, very similar to Zinchenko, the opposite of what I said last week to you, Ryan. What you said ended up being quite true, that Tierney just pulled into midfield and did Tierney
wasn't so
things.
good at it, though, was he? He wasn't so good.
But first game of the season for KT as well. So I'll give him a pass. I wasn't staring at KT longing for Zinchenko.
No. I agree. Tierney's a great player. We haven't got an issue there. But when you see that the technical ability of Zinchenko when he comes into midfield was different to Tierney. Tierney, I don't want to say he's a little bit more like Said Kolasinac, but he's a little bit square on, Tierney, isn't he? He runs head down, very powerful, very strong. He isn't the technically most gifted player that we've got. So I think when he came inside for Zinchenko, did that role, he didn't do it quite so well. It didn't give us.
Zinchenko is a midfielder come left back though, we would expect that. Whereas, as we were saying last week, KT is a left centre back. KT is a left side specialist essentially, with all the elements of the left side. It's interesting that you mentioned Tavares. Tavares? Is it Tavares, the way we're meant to say it? Tavares? I don't fucking know. Nuno Tavares. I find it quite incredible how many people, Ryan, online, when a player who's very big and very physical and very athletic goes to a substandard league, and then they are like astonished by the fact that they go there and they dominate. Because I'm not astonished by that, Ryan. The French league is a fucking farmers league, and I'm not taking anything away from Nuno, but let's pump the fucking brakes, because week in, week out in the Prem is very fucking different to week in, week out in France.
Yeah, I mean, also too, he's a left wing back. The system Marseille plays, they play a back three, so he's got a little more room to kind of run around. He's like a dog out in the park that needs to walk. So naturally, this is kind of his element. And Marseille are also a good team, And to further your point, Kolasinac is doing pretty well on that team as well. Kanduzi's like their best player, I think. So it's interesting to see how the French league works. But no, I brought this up last week on the show. We talked about how, do you think that when he comes back from a good loan spell at Marseille, do we think maybe we'll persist with him over KT? Because the way Zinchenko's playing, that's kind of what Nuno's doing, and he's doing it in Marseille, and it's kind of what Nuno's specialty is. But I agree, at the end of the day, he's in the French league, and I think he's doing bits because of his competition. But I do think that'll make him better, and I think that'll make him more malleable and a better solution for us in the long term. I just don't know if Arteta is gonna get with his attitude and and his confidence, because it seems to be an issue when it goes down.
Darren, it's a week in, week out thing to be a top player in the Premier League, isn't it? And it's not just what you do on the pitch. It's not just what you do in your 90 minutes if you're lucky, and your 20 minutes if you're off the bench. It's what you do every single day in training to prepare yourself to essentially go into battle every single week, sometimes twice a week. How do you see the differences between what it clearly must be like playing in France and what it is to be playing in the Premier League?
I think what we're learning this year, especially I've watched a lot of football this year, and attitude seems to be the difference. You've got to be obviously at a really high technical level, and you've got to be able to work harder, run more, run faster, be stronger than most leagues in the world. That's always been English football. It has been played at 100 miles an hour, and you don't have time to think. But what I'm seeing this year more than ever is the attitude. Look at the attitude of our players at the moment. We're really fighting for each other. The crowd's behind the team. It's all one big family. But the teams that I've seen play really well, the Brightons, the Leeds Uniteds, they're getting their results just by endeavour and work rate. And I think you have to sustain that every single game, otherwise you lose. Look at Manchester United going down to Brentford and getting beat by 4. This is Brentford United against Manchester United. Look at the difference in the quality of those sides. It's just attitude. So my point is I think if you drop for any minute in this league, you let in goals. Gabriel at the weekend hesitated for 2 seconds on the ball and we let in a goal. And I don't think you get punished quite so much in the other leagues. And I don't think you have to work so hard. They're all played, except maybe Germany, they're played at a slower pace. You know?
Well, I mean, even if we look at a player like Reece Nelson, who left us as a under 21 star, went to Germany and looked like the fucking god of football, playing out of position and scoring a shit ton of goals, and came back to us and looked like he wasn't at the grade. I just think there's too many fans out there, too many people who don't take into account the intensity and the pool of talent that is in the Premier League compared to other leagues in the world. And I would say that for 75% of the Spanish league. I'd say that was 75% or 80% of the Italian league as well, and that's why if we get on to, celebrating and being happy about winning in the Premier League, to take a line out of Aaron Ramsdale's book today, which I absolutely loved, is, he said every game in the Premier League is brutally hard fought. And, we will celebrate when we want to celebrate and how we want to celebrate. And I actually think that this is Mikel Arteta and a bit of modern management coming through, because celebrating small wins, celebrating little things is really important, because they start to build confidence and they start to build togetherness. And if you can't celebrate coming back from a goal down, not playing particularly well, and celebrating the person, which is kind of what I think that was all about, Ryan. For me, I reckon that was Arsenal celebrating Gabriel. That was Arsenal celebrating a guy who's been fucking monstrous for them for 2 seasons, who fucked up, dropped his head. You saw all the boys get around him, and he went down the other end and he scored the winner. And I think that was big of the outpouring. It was a thing of togetherness.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've won a game where we've been down 1-0 in the second half since 2013. So it's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for the club, and yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because spoiler alert to people who haven't watched the Oh Nothing documentary, or I should just say to Darren, they talk to Gabriel side by side, and they go, when you have the ball at your feet and your first touch is wonderful, you're great. You're good with the ball. You can dribble, you can pass. When you have a shit first touch, you fucking look like a deer in headlights and you're lost. And, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but when he has a bad first touch, he's shit. And I'm watching the game with my wife. What happens? He gets the ball, bad first touch, and he's just like Bambi on roller skates on an ice skating rink. So it was, it's funny to watch the documentary, to see what goes on behind the scenes, and to kind of see it translate on the pitch, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, he really came back, grabbed the I guess the bull by the horns, the common saying. And I give the fans all the credit in the world. I give Odegaard all the credit in the world, Arteta, and yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna fucking celebrate. I didn't know there was a celebration police out there and relegate. How the fuck I want to celebrate? If I want to be naked smoking a cigar on the halfway line at 90 minutes, then I'm gonna
against Fulham, not even caring.
Yeah, and I said this, I tweeted this. Fulham we're 4 games in. I understand that, but Fulham was the most organized team we've played this season by a long shot. The organization was top notch. They came prepared to play us, and I think they might have they were probably the best team we've played on the field that day. We probably beat Fulham 9 times out of 10, probably 4-0 or more. But they came prepared. They came to play, and like you said last week, and it's something that the Arse Bros constantly say. 2 teams get paid to play. It's not just us against robots and AI. So. It was a good, hard-fought win, and yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to celebrate.
Darren, the psychology of the team now, would you agree that that's something that's, you sort of spoke a few minutes ago about how it's kind of about efforts, and it's about the togetherness of the teams, and, how people put the work in, but also I think we're starting to see a really big shift in psychology now, and that's driven by Arteta.
Do you know what? It's hard to say. I don't want to get carried away with all this. I mean, I've said that it was attitude is the difference in the Premier League. You've got to be up for it all of the time, otherwise you get found out. But I'm I'm the biggest optimist in Arsenal's fan book, and yet we have played 4 sides that in any season we should expect to win. If these games have been scattered through a season, last season or the season before, Palace away is tough, but we would expect to beat them. And the other 3, really, we should be winning. With Bournemouth away and Leicester and Fulham at home. These are sides. So let's not get carried away. Where we will judge this side is if they get a hiding. Last season we got beat 5 at Manchester City. We don't look like that at the moment. We look very, very good. But in a game like this against a lowly team, Fulham, well organised, part of the bus, but we're going to expect that from lots of teams in the Premier League. If we can't break those teams down and score, and we get beaten, I think that's when we'll see whether the attitude of these players has improved from last year. It feels like it has. It feels like there's a real togetherness, and it really feels like the crowd are so much behind them at the home stadium that can make a difference. But come on, we have only beaten 4 sides that we should beat, and most of the big clubs will win those 4 games. So I don't think we should get too carried away now with how good we are mentally.
Ryan, I think that's something that Scunny Mike has always said, though. He's always made a point of saying, the mark of a good team isn't always that they just swat away the lowly teams, or, they do them 8-0 and 9-0 and things like that. But the mark of a good team, mark of a team is going to have a good season, is often when they don't play particularly well and they reach down and they find it and they get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing too. People say, we didn't play well and we snatched. What is it? We snatched the victory from Jaws' defeat. I don't fucking know. It's too early for me. But I actually thought we played quite well. I think we were definitely the better team. We had 75% possession. I think actually ended up being 73. Mitrovic can fuck off. He said we had 2 lucky goals, but yeah, we were the better team. So, I mean, it's games like these where last season where like things just weren't working. We were having trouble. We couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Couldn't pull them back in the net. And then the other team would score, and we'd be like, well, we fucking tried. It is what it is. We tried.
And Ryan, the point is as well, we had Lacazette and Aubameyang as our goal scorers who were firing blanks all season. It doesn't feel quite the same now, does it? It feels like there's goals in lots of areas of the pitch. Martinelli, Odegaard, Jesus.
Even Nketiah coming on, Darren looked dangerous. He looked deadly, and he looked robust and strong, and looked fucking hungry as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting my +2. I know we've been kind of lacking in our +3, +2, +1s, and minuses and all that good stuff.
I still think about it at the end of games though. Who would be my 3-2?
I do it all the time. Eddie, and I said this. I think it was this show. The difference, the gap that in skill that Eddie made this preseason is massive. I've never seen a player jump in skill and ability as much as he has. I'm excited, man. I think he's going to be a real threat. I said this on another podcast. I think he's going to be our second in all competitions. He's going to be second in goals for us. I think he's going to be a threat. I think he just needs to score that 1 goal. Let the floodgates open. And
just needs Europa, Ryan. He just needs Europa. Yeah. He's going to cunt them in Europa.
Yeah. So Max, here's a question for you then. I mean, we're now at a stage where we're going to be playing 2 games a week, pretty much until the World Cup. Yeah, if you've seen the schedule, I think we've got 9 games in October. It's an incredible schedule. It starts this week, Wednesday. We know we've got problems with injuries in that central midfield position. Would you now rotate to bring, let's say, Eddie in for a start against Villa, remembering that our next game is away at Manchester United? Would you now start to rotate slightly for the next game?
No, because I think that the points come where the points come, and every game is worth the same amount of points. Does that make sense?
But isn't it
every game is worth the same amount. What I would be doing is I would be saying to the team, let's go out there and put it on Villa early so that I can make the changes early so that we can get some stuff out of people's legs. That would be my plan, because ultimately there's no guarantee that we go and win the next game. And I've always hated this idea of that you rest someone to try and win the next game when it's a big game. If that Villa game with us at full strength is a 90% win likelihood, 85% win likelihood, and I go out full strength and I take my 3 points and I put them in the bank. It's as simple as that. But
wouldn't you want to get some? I mean, we're not talking about wholesale changes. Let's say, for example, we wanted to get Eddie back into the side to give him 90 minutes to start. None of us would be that upset if we started with.
I'd consider playing Eddie with Jesus and putting Eddie up front and sticking Jesus out onto a wing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So then you can maybe
giving Saka a break.
Martinelli or Saka. Yeah, that's what that was more where I was coming from.
I was thinking that, and I was saying this to Toby after the game. I was saying the best thing that has come from Jesus is that it's not like, with Aubameyang, it was like, oh, well, we've got to, if we want to keep Aubameyang on the pitch, we've got to move him out wide, and we lose a winger. With Jesus and with Eddie, it's like, if I want to get Eddie on the pitch, and I want to start seeing Eddie come on the pitch a little bit earlier now after that game, I'm like, fuck bringing you on at, 80 minutes and giving you 10 minutes plus injury time to get on. Like, I want to see Eddie coming on 70 minutes.
I think I'd like to see Eddie start the next game and
he's given them real problems, Eddie, and he looks. I know we already said this in the last couple of episodes, but he looks a lot bigger. He looks a lot more robust, and even to an extent, they popped the camera on his face. Over the last couple of years, he's really looked very baby faced. He's looked like a little boy. They popped the camera onto his face, and he looked like he had the bit between his teeth. Like, he looked like he looked like he had gone through a change. He looked like he'd gone through a maturity. And I was just super, super impressed with him. I'm not going to put my hand up and say I've been one of these guys who's been on the Eddie bandwagon the whole time. I'm no Big Steve. I've done podcasts where I've said he's not good enough. I've said we should sell him, but I'm not so fucking small that I'm not willing to say we progressed with him and he has progressed with us. And now I'm seeing something that I didn't think that I was going to see out of him. I didn't think I was going to see that level of.
I think it was very brave. I think it was very brave of the club to offer him a new deal because, we've invested a lot of time and effort and money into the development of Eddie. And now, if you look at the age of strikers don't normally hit their best until 24, 25, and then up until 29, 30. That's that 5-6 year period where you've got them at their best. He's still young. And you're not on your own, Max. We all thought that Eddie probably wasn't going to make it. And then suddenly, the end of last year, when we were saying he's playing for a contract or playing for a transfer, playing for a new club, he was exceptional. Suddenly he has come on leaps and bounds. And now, pre-season, I saw a bit of him. And every time he's put a shirt on, he's doing something special now. I don't think we're in a situation where we should worry about starting Eddie. I'd like him to get into the goals. Home to Aston Villa. Maybe rest Saka or rest Martinelli, switch whichever one over to the other side. And it just gives us one player.
And with the additional subs now, Darren, if it's not going well, you just fucking change it. It's not like 3 subs where you're like, oh, I've massively fucked this up. Ryan, one of the things I've been really interested with Eddie, and actually I'll bring Darren in on this as well. I didn't realize he had this level of kind of junkyard dog in him, because that's the type of player that I'm seeing out of him this season. I think we always saw he was a bit of a finisher and, he had some nice technique. But I just love the physicality and him running down players and running down blind alleys. That's something for me that I'm like, whoa, you can't always buy that. That's just something that's inherent. He looks like someone who is thinking right now, this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to make it at a big club, because he will have watched, Ryan, players like Joe Willock, go off and sign for other clubs on big money and do not much. He would have watched other academy guys like Ainsley Maitland-Niles get all their starts and not take their opportunities and get punted out the back door. Do you reckon he's got that real bit between his teeth now and he's almost got a bit of like, fuck you, I'm going to make it here about him?
I mean, let's not mince words here. It's our favorite word. I mean, Eddie's a cunt. He's our cunt, and he has. And I noticed it I first really noticed it when we were playing West Ham last season, and seeing Declan Rice just watching a player just, see red is never something you want to see in your player, but when you see another player, it just, I don't know, it gets me hard as fuck. But yeah, seeing Declan Rice, who is normally a very calm player on and off the field, seeing him just lose his shit with Eddie, it's good to see. It's good to see from a player like Eddie where, the goals are there. He's, the leading goal scorer all time for the England
under 21
national. Yeah, so he
most amount of goals in a season for Arsenal under 21s as well. Most amount of goals.
He's got those fucking records that don't really mean shit because it's
I think that's what let people down about him when he came into the team early last season. Ryan, I think that's why people got off him. Because he was always, they were like, oh, he's a poacher, he's a finisher. And then he had opportunities, but he didn't take them. And, it's been spoken about, but he said publicly, if you don't get 3, 4, 5 games in a row under your belt, you never get a feeling for it. But Darren, the Ian Wright parallels that you made early on that I kind of didn't see in definitely last week, I started to see it. I was like, I get it now. It's not just about the finishing. It's
Jesus. So we moved on to Jesus now.
No. We were talking about Eddie being very Ian Wright.
My comparison is with Jesus with Ian Wright. Eddie's nothing like him.
Okay.
Eddie's nothing like Ian Wright's it's that small, low center of gravity tearing.
Eddie's like that. But no, I guess what I'm saying is that's the type of player people thought we had in Eddie when we were disappointed.
It's a huge jump up in class from the under 18s, under 20, under 21s into the Premier League. They're finding their feet. As I say, it's an age thing for me. We're seeing his development before our eyes. We're seeing a kid that came in possibly too young, but we wanted to keep him and gave him minutes, but he didn't progress. Look at the guy. Who's the other one? Balogun. We can see that when we played him. He's nowhere near the level.
Another one who's gone over to France and done
Premier
well.
League, and hopefully that will work. He'll go into a lower level, but a better level than he was playing at in the reserves, and he'll learn his trade. And these players are going to get good as they get older. Say 25 to 30 is your peak for a striker. And what is Eddie now? 23? Is he something around that? 23? We're seeing him develop before our eyes. He's getting bigger and stronger. He's getting hungrier. He's starting to understand. There was a comment I heard from one of our players who was out on loan last year. And I can't remember, is one of the double-barreled names, Chumley Walner.
Oh, Norton Cuffy?
Yeah, and he said, when he played in going out on loan, one of the things that he realised that these are professional footballers and winning is all about money when you drop down a level or two. It was all about their win bonuses. And if you didn't put in a shift, he said, you were soon told, hang on, this is football. This is our livelihood. Get your fucking act together. And I think when you're a youngster coming through the Arsenal Academy, playing on these beautiful pitches, being well looked after, going into school, going into classrooms, dreaming of that move up into the first team. And then suddenly, you get to the real world and it's fucking hard out there. And I think this is what we're seeing before our very eyes. Eddie is getting better and better. And I think he's actually earned a start now. I think with United coming up, I think we want to have our players really firing. And I think it's a good opportunity at home with a crowd that loves him, that a crowd that's going to be behind him against a poor, low in confidence Aston Villa side. I think this is the time where we do make a couple of changes. So we're really, really strong for the Manchester United game, which is the very, very important game early on now. Now, they've won twice. They're in the top 8. They beat Liverpool. Fuck, that's important. That's a big test.
Ryan, I guess while we're talking about squad and squad depth, it would be remiss of us not to have a conversation about the transfer window. Now, I'm not one of these guys that have conversations about players who I've never fucking seen before. Everyone's on about this Ukrainian guy who's the flavor of the week this week, and then everyone's on to Asensio. And I mean, if I'm looking at it, Ryan, I think that it's clear for most people to see that we're almost certainly we are a winger short to replace Pepe, to give Saka a little bit of a break. In my opinion, I'd love to have someone who can maybe play both roles between kind of centre forward and wing, but that might be a pipe dream. And also, we're still, despite Xhaka's form, we're still probably looking at number 8 depth? Anything that you're kind of thinking as far as the transfer window is what you're like, if I don't get this by the end of the transfer window, I'm going to be worried about our sustainability?
Well, it's funny. I actually wasn't worried about us until I saw the All Netting news when I got up. So,
but we weren't even thinking about 6 cover. Now are you thinking 6 cover?
It's funny. I do. Don't be wrong. I do think we need another wide forward, and I think it'll help us. But we have, and I know people are going to be like, "Oh, they're not good enough." But we have Reece Nelson coming back from injury. He can cover. Is it good enough at this point? I don't think so. But he's covered. We have Mark.
Serious loan.
Yeah, Marquinhos. Everyone loves him. Arteta's came out in an interview saying he's too good for the U23s or U21s. I don't think he's going to play there.
Where does this Vieira kid play? What's his preferred?
Well, and that's funny. He actually, for the U23s, when he did play that one game, he played as a right winger. But people said he's not good. People said he's better in the middle of the field. That's where he's probably.
Is he an 8 or a 10?
He's a 10. He's more of a 10. He can play 8. But he's more of an Odegaard type player.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think when you look at his profile, they were saying that he played across the attacking line, so he's an attacking midfielder. So he can play all the way across that line. So I'm sure he could play there, but I think he's an Odegaard replacement, or he's, anywhere when we want to play with that diamond, when we want to play with 1 holding and 2 going forward. Xhaka's role at the moment, he could do that the way Xhaka's going forward. He could do Odegaard's role. Sorry to speak over you.
I mean, ESR still to make his way into this team as well. He played plenty of time off left wing. I know people don't see him as right wing cover as well.
You're right, Max. That's the other bit, isn't it? If ESR plays on the left up front, which he's played most of his football for Arsenal, then Martinelli can switch to the right, and that gives us an option. And who's the other Brazilian that we bought?
Marquinhos.
The reports are very good there.
People say he's too young, but we bought Gabby at the same age, even younger.
Yeah, and I think unlike with the defender, where it's a little bit more of a it's a little bit more worrying, like the Tavares thing. I think we could, especially in the Europa Leagues, we might see. How do you pronounce his name? Marquinhos. We could see him. The reports are good. He's not going out on loan because he's impressed, So he's training with the first team. I think as the season goes on, we might well see him. I do still think we probably do need. I think the Tielemans thing is still available. I think that's going to be a deadline day. Hold your nerve. At this stage,
Darren, I really like to. My preferences. I said this the other day in a tweet. My preferences would be for Neto and Tielemans.
Yeah,
they would be my preferences because you're coming into a team that's already playing really well, and to not have to integrate people, having seen how little integration Zinchenko took and how little integration Jesus took. I know they're very high level players, but for me, if I'm looking at the immediate development of the team and the kind of assets that we have in the younger assets, I would much prefer. I'd feel more comfortable. What were they saying? They reckon Tielemans we're holding out for 30 and they want 40 odd. Were they saying Neto they were holding out for 60 and we were nowhere near that?
Yeah, I don't think the Neto thing will happen. I agree with you. I think that will be a great signing. But if you look at what they've just sold to, who just bought their other young player at, and they've just sold someone, for a ridiculous amount of money. So Nottingham Forest, 25, 30 million. They're going to be looking, now a lot of money for Neto. And I just don't think we can afford them both. We say we're playing within financial fair play, but if you wanted those 2 players, you're talking about another probably 100 million for the 2. And can we actually afford to do that? Are they the right players? How far down the list do you go? When we bought Zinchenko, he wasn't first choice. If you wanted Rafinha, was it Rafinha at Leeds? He didn't come. So then your next choice was Tielemans. How far down that list do you go before it isn't the right player? It isn't your first choice. And I think, we may end up holding on till January. You've got to remember, we've got a very short first half of the season. We're going to be playing till mid-November and then we've got 6 weeks off. Well, that means that January is almost like a summer transfer window. There'll be players that do really well at the World Cup who will suddenly be worth a lot of money, but there'll be players, then you've got a lot of games in the back half of the season. And I think then Tielemans, I don't know what his contract situation is, but is he on his last year?
He's in his last year. That's where the pressure. That's where the pressure comes from.
So there'll be 6 months left on his contract in January. They may then want to take something.
I think the issue we have with Tielemans is Man U are after him and Newcastle United are after him. So I think, and if we know anything about Man U, if they fucking panic enough, they'll pay fucking anything for anyone.
Yeah, and they are at the moment. Well, they just pay 100 million euros for Anthony, 80 million pounds.
Yeah. They just keep cutting checks, huh? They're just cutting checks on fucking garbage. They're such a Frankenstein of a team.
It's fantastic. Long may it continue. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. We should be worried. Chelsea, bought Fofana now, haven't they? I don't know if that one's gone through in the last few days, but the clubs I know have agreed to fee now.
That's a fucking good signing from Chelsea.
Yeah.
As well.
Chelsea haven't stopped. So once they get their act together, they're going to be very hard to stop.
Good signing for us too, because Martinelli was skinned him alive at Leicester. He's going to skin him 2 more times against Chelsea. So I'm excited. Bring Fofana on. I don't care. Martinelli had him for lunch. He's going to have him for lunch 2 more times. I'm not worried about it. But real quick, the only thing I wanted to say about Tielemans was I did hear he was with other teams, but I also heard that we're his preferred destination. And the way we see it is, why are we going to pay him a fee when he's just going to come to us in the summer for free? Now, with injuries and everything that's been going on in the last few
hours, may force us to push. It may
force us to push to give him some money,
especially if there's only 10 million, Ryan. If there's 20-30 million between valuations, and I'm all for Arsenal being better at contracts and not overpaying for people and being in powerful positions and players wanting to come and play for us, which I think makes a difference as well. Because Tielemans may very well be sitting there and going, I don't fucking want to go to Man U. They're cooked. Those cunts are fucking cooked. I don't want to go be the brunt of their hatred. And he might be looking at Newcastle and going like, I don't fucking want to live up there. It's cold as fuck. And as Darren says, fuck Newcastle.
I think that was clear with Frankie de Jong as well. He wanted, United wanted him. He didn't want to go there. They were bottom of the table. But, you can all unrest. They're on the back pages for the wrong reasons. And he said, if I don't want to go, if I have to go, it will be Chelsea. I don't want to go to Manchester United. We're living in a world now where Manchester United are not the draw, apart from financially. And the manager. The manager, these players that are going there now have played under him before. And don't get me wrong, they will be strong again, United. This manager, I think, is good. But we know by how long it's taken us to weed out the shite and buy new players.
They got to go back to grassroots.
They're a year or two away.
Yeah, they got to take their medicine and then build on top of it. Fucking absolutely. Absolutely. Look, Tielemans, like I said, I'd be very happy with Tielemans. From the first transfer rumours that we could possibly get Tielemans, I've always thought right age profile, loads of experience, gives us something that we don't have as well, because we don't cunt balls from outside the box. Other than Xhaka's one a year that he cunts, we haven't had some. Yeah, but they're both 1 a year wonders. We haven't had someone for a long time. Who was the last person we had? I know it's an on-the-spot question. Last person we had who would regularly more than once or twice a year, regularly fucking. I don't even know who the fuck that is.
Oh, regularly come on, you must know distance. John Jensen. He's an Arsenal legend. Jensen.
I'm fucking 37, Darren. I'm 37. I'm fucking 87.
When John Jensen is Arsenal. You must know that story. Fuck me, we bought him on the back of a Euros or a World Cup where he hit a screamer like you're talking about from 35 yards in the top corner. What fucking year are you talking about, Darren? Fuck me, ain't that long ago.
What year? Pick a year.
I'll Google it in a minute.
Yeah, I fucking guarantee you I was either still in Dad's nutsack.
John Jensen, but he then played for us for about 3 years and didn't score. We bought him on the back of this fabulous goal he scored. He played about 3 years for us, didn't score. And when he finally scored, they sold T-shirts out the ground. Everyone was wearing I was there when John Jensen scored T-shirts. Fucking hell, you lot don't know your history.
Fuck you, Darren.
99 appearances, 1 goal.
Yeah, when you signed, what year? 92.
92.
Mate, I was in grade fucking 2. I was in grade 2 in 1992, Darren. Fuck
How
you.
old's that? I don't know what grade 2 is.
Fucking 7. I was 7.
Oh, well, I was supporting Arsenal for 2 years by the time I was 7.
Fuck you, Darren. Fuck you. Now I've completely forgotten what I was going to talk about. Aaron Ramsey would have been the last one who scored belters.
Hang on, look, the Mr. Arsenal podcast. I'm 33 and I know John Jensen.
I put that up on the screen a minute ago. You just didn't see it because you're fucking blind and old, you cunt.
To be fair to Ryan in the chat, he fucking hosts like quiz like every other week.
Exactly.
Guy's a fucking Arsenal encyclopedia.
Yeah. Have you heard of Tony Adams? Have you heard of Tony Adams?
I will fucking fly.
Rings a bell.
And I will
David Seaman.
Fuck you, cunt.
John Radford. Pat Jennings. Frank McClintock.
Can we move
John
on,
Jensen.
Darren? Can we move on before you start slagging off Sol Campbell again and emptying everyone out of the fucking room? That'd be very good. Thank you. Anyway, last player that we had who regularly cunted balls from distance was Aaron Ramsey. Just saying. Last person we had.
Yes.
In fact, I would even question when was the last time we had a midfielder who scored more than 10 goals in the Prem in a season. Would have been Ramsey as well. We've been starved. Yeah. We've been starved of midfield goals for quite some time. And old Arsenal teams used to share them around a lot more as well, which is interesting. Anyway, the point that I was making was Tillerman's, he's got a cracker in him. He'll fucking cunt one from distance. No problems. Fuck, what else we got to talk about? Anyone else? Anyone got a topic? I'm underprepared. It was my birthday yesterday.
I really like Murdoch. I don't know I can't fucking pronounce his name. I'm not Ukrainian, but I just call him Murdoch.
Did you know him before you watched a YouTube video of him though?
Funny enough, yes, I've heard of him. Because I could, Clive, if you're listening to this, cover your ears. I could jack Clive off on Arsenal Vision podcast all day, every day. I just listen. I hang on every word he says. He brought him up when Ukraine played Scotland in the World Cup qualifiers, and I watched the game too. I was a little bit drunk. I was at a baseball game, but whatever. I rewatched it, and yeah, I think he's a real player. I think he's going to be good for us. He's young, and I think, with us just bringing in Zinchenko, I think he could be a real asset to us. And he's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than Pedro Neto. So I'm all aboard that train.
Well, there are plenty of rumors about Zinchenko being at the airport.
So. Yeah, someone in the chat brought that up, and Ryan brought it up. Would a player pick up another player? I feel like that doesn't make. I don't agree with that. Yes, they're from the same national team, but And to Mr. Arsenal's comment, yes, I was very intoxicated. Maybe I'll go get it. They sell like these plastic bats, and they pour the beer in the bats. It's genius. I was wasted. It was a lot of fun. Go Yard Goats. But it's going to be interesting to see like what we do to get a midfielder across the line, because I do think we need one. So do we? I really don't think we're gonna really buck up and pay a lot of money for Pedro Neto, or we're gonna want to pay a lot of money. So do we?
Apparently, I was just checking on Twitter before. Apparently, it's done. It's finished. The Neto thing's finished, according to most sources. The price tag was too high, and they don't want to let him go.
So I think we maybe make a sacrifice, maybe pay a younger profile, what we're normally attracting for cheap money that no one's ever heard of, or we don't sign a winger because we have Reece Nelson coming back from injury, we have Marquinhos, we have ESR, we have all these players. Do I think we need another one? Yeah, I think we could use another one that's kind of more integrated with the Premier League and stuff. But we had
an £80 million player who was integrated into the team and still did the square root of fuck all for the vast majority of games that he played for us. I was talking to someone about Pepe the other day, someone from who supports another football team, and he was like, "You guys are crazy. When we played you, he bummed us." And I was like, "Do you watch us in any other games except for when we play you?" And he was like, "Nah." And I'm like, "That would have been all the fuck that cunt did for that whole fucking season."
I think you're being too harsh. Pepe was exceptionally good going forward, but he was very, very poor at the intelligence side of the game. He was
He's
very
also
poor.
very poor at coming off the bench, which I think was one of his biggest.
Yeah, but I mean, I
letdowns.
think you're sort of, because now he's gone, you're starting to get into that. Well, he was crap, he was rubbish. If you look, I used to pay money to go and watch him every week, and he was a great, exciting player. He just didn't fit Arteta's style, where you needed to be in a certain position if you lost the ball.
Ask
Sorry,
Brian.
have you got a Pepe shirt?
I fucking fought
have you got a
for
Pepe shirt?
I, in fact, even at one point said, fucking play him up front when Aubameyang was playing.
Yeah,
shit.
me too.
I was like, fucking throw him up front. He'll kill it.
The
Take
thing
him
that
away from
killed
having
Pepe,
to run up and down a touchline.
The thing that killed Pepe was the amount of money we bought him for. If we'd have bought him for 20 million, the crowd would have actually got behind him a bit more and supported him a bit more. But the fact that we paid, a club record amount of money for a player that really wasn't worth that sort of money, it was embarrassing.
And you know what? It's not his fault, and it's not the fans' fault. It's not the fans' fault for expecting more from someone who was our entire summer transfer budget, and it's not Pepe's fault that agents paid so much for him that it fucking blew him out the water. And I've said this before, but if you go back to reports when he landed at Arsenal, there were reports that people didn't know where he went after training. He didn't integrate. He didn't make friends. He didn't train particularly hard. He didn't make any effort to learn English. This you have to keep in mind. I mean, go back to yourself. Go back to your 19, 20, 21-year-old self. And this is very difficult for these guys, especially guys coming out of parts of French-speaking Africa, and they're on massive fucking wages and in this big world of football. And there's people don't realize it's not a game of FIFA. Just because you've got 94 shooting doesn't mean you wake up every day and you feel on top of the world and you're not homesick and you go in and you train hard. So I have no disdain for Pepe. That wasn't the point of what I was saying. I had no disdain for Pepe. The point of what I was saying was, people say, we've got to go sign, another winger. We've got to go sign someone else. And they bring up all of these different names. And I'm like, well, the guy who we signed, who had been successful where he was, there was no signs that Pepe was going to be unsuccessful, didn't make it at Arsenal. So, what's the harm in playing a Marquinhos or, playing someone else? We did it with Martinelli and got wonderful results out of him.
But I think it goes back to what I said earlier in the podcast. It's about attitude in the Premier League. What you've said about his training, his lacking in learning the language, all of those things lacking to integrate. The profile of the players that we're signing now, attitude is a key one. They're hungry. They're young. They're hungry. They want to do things. Previously, he was the last one. Pepe was the last one in my mind of the old regime's ridiculous signings because of a relationship with someone. There was no way we should have spent £70 million of our money on that player. For the main reason he wasn't quite up to Premier League standard, and two, his attitude probably wasn't right for a side that Mikel Arteta wants to challenge for the Champions League title. That's our goal, isn't it? 3-4 years time.
You could argue, Darren, that someone did not scout his personality, and I think that's really important. I think that's important to Arteta. You want to make sure that person's going to fit. Look, speaking of people who aren't young, are probably overpriced and might be slightly over the hill. Rumors going around that Zaha, a childhood Arsenal fan, 29 years old. I don't think it's going to cost us a huge amount in a transfer, but his wages will be fucking plenty good. He'd be up in the top 5 or 6 earners for us. Ryan, worth a dip on Zaha. Just if I think about last season, I think about all the fucking vitriol in January when people said, we were just one player away, or we were this away or that away. Does Zaha fill a gap for 2 years? 29 is by no means old. Would you be willing to take him on a low transfer fee, what I would imagine would be 200 grand a week, to play second fiddle to Martinelli and Saka?
I mean, looking at it from the transfer side of things, he's got to force a move, because I think
apparently, according to
yeah,
Ryan,
that's what he says.
He's put it through.
He's gonna have to, because I think Palace is.
He's got one last chance, Zaha. He's got one last chance to not be a massive fucking fish in a tiny little pond.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Palace are going to take a crazy amount of money to sell him. I don't think they want to sell him. I don't think they're going to sell him. I really don't think they're going to sell him. But yeah, I mean, let me just preface by saying I don't want him. I don't want him. It's too late. Sorry.
Him or no one. Him or no one.
No one. No one.
That's fucking bullshit, Ryan.
What do you mean it's bullshit? We have Reece Nelson. We have Marquinhos. We have players there.
I don't. As much as I agree with you that you have players, Zaha is still a dominant, proven Premier League player.
He doesn't fit the system, and I don't know if he's going to integrate with the players well. And going back to what I was going to say before Ryan made the comment, and yes, I was thinking about Zaha before he made the comment, Ryan. I'm kind of smart sometimes. And I was going to ask Twitter, but I forgot. I think I scratched my balls instead. But do you think if we had signed Zaha instead of Pepe, you think we would be further along?
No, I don't think.
Where do you see us in another universe, or do you think Zaha would be that same player and Zaha would be at Nice right now? I think that's an interesting discussion because I don't know how he would have affected us.
Well, there's a couple of things there. That last point, yes, absolutely. I think if we'd have signed Zaha instead of Pepe, absolutely would have made a difference because Pepe didn't have the attitude, didn't have the Premier League experience, wasn't as good as Zaha. So I think Zaha would have made a hell of a lot of difference. Second point, Max, when you ask Ryan his opinion and Ryan gives you his opinion, you can't then say that's bollocks because it's his opinion.
No.
You're wrong. This is 2022. I can yell at whoever.
Thirdly, I think Zaha is one of the best players in the Premier League, and we should bite their hand off if we can get him, and he will improve us no end. He is absolutely Premier League proven. He has got such a hard work rate that he does all of those things that we were worried that Tavares didn't do. He would raise the level of Martinelli and Saka because he is at the very top of his game.
You also give them genuine competition.
He's only second to Kevin De Bruyne in my mind of players of that sort of ability at that sort of age. And I think that I am very much a fan of Arsenal buying all of these young players. I think it's a great way. If we can improve all of these youngsters that we've got in 2 or 3 or 4 years' time, we will be right at the top end of the table again. And I'm talking to the top of the table of European football, not just the Premier League. And I think Zaha would be a fabulous stopgap for 2 years. And if we can get him, I think we should absolutely do it.
I agree with everything you said, Darren. The only thing I disagree with is he did the small fish, the big pond. He did that at Man U, did not work. So I don't think he's gonna work for us. And B,
he was a kid.
Yeah, whatever. That was 2004. Oh, yeah, that was fuck, dude.
He was a kid.
The real youngster.
That was 8 years. That was over 8 years ago. That's fucking insane. But anyways, my last point was, do you think he's gonna take he's not gonna I guess he would start more times than not, but you think he's going to take this role where it's he might play, he might not play?
So many competitions to play.
The thing is, I think I love Martinelli. I love Saka. I think Zaha is better than both of them at the moment.
I don't.
And we're looking for a winger. So we've got 2 games a week, 9 games in October. If we could get a player so that you could rest those alternatives, because he is getting older, I think there is enough football there for Zaha. And Zaha, I think his mentality, when you watch the way he works for Palace, I think if he knows that he has to really raise his game for a couple of years to make it at the top, I think he'll be a fabulous signing for Arsenal.
I think he would recognise that it was his last. I think he would see it as his last chance. He would see it as his last chance to make his mark. But good chat. Good chat. Started slow, but we got into it. In the end, sometimes in life, guys, life is a lot like being drunk in a nightclub. And, it's the end of the night. And at the start of the nightclub, at the start of the evening, you had aspirations, aspirations of taking home a very beautiful girl or a pretty girl and making love to her. And by the end of the night, what you're left with is the option of ass fucking a fat bird. And what I fear is that we're not at the point where we're just walking around a nightclub, one-eyed, completely fucking battered, just trying to grab anything that will let us get inside of them. I don't think that's Zaha. I don't think that's any of the players that we're going after. But what I would hope is that we maintain our dignity in this transfer window. That's what I do hope. I do hope we maintain our dignity. And at minimum, we make sure that we're taking home 7s and above. 7 out of 10s and above. I think that's what we need to do. And I think that we'll get some business done. We're going to be back next week, most likely after another Arsenal victory. I'm going to say 3-1 to the Arsenal with an Eddie Nketiah double. Now I got to find the button.
It would be 2 games because we played.
Yeah, it will be 2 games, but don't interrupt him. He's about to find the button.
Don't worry, I found the button. Found the button. Press the button. Good night.
This is an Arse Brothers production. Follow us on Twitter @the Arse Brothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud @ArseBrothers. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.